Welcome into Relatable Takes, a podcast filled with conversations from people trying to figure out life just like the rest of us. I'm your host, John Rouse, and honestly, y'all, this is something I've been dreaming about for a while now. Obviously, everyone and their brother has a podcast these days, so I figured, well, if these kids are getting off the school bus in the third grade and going home, studying for their EOGs, and then recording conversations for their shows, then I guess so should I. So, the idea of this show is to be a platform for the people because, in the end, people matter, despite what artificial intelligence may be trying to tell you in the next few years. But you know, those late night talks with friends, random debates at the dinner table with family, the unexpected chats with someone new that you just met at the bar, or even those chill campfire conversations when you're relaxed. That's what the show is all about. Please think of this as an open invitation for anyone listening that wants a platform to talk about who you are, what you do, or if there's just something that you like to share with people because it helped you in a situation and may help someone else going through something similar. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to navigate life's crazy journey, and I'm just a guy who believes we can learn from each other and navigate this chaos together, one conversation at a time. So grab a seat, enjoy your walk, take a beer, or if you saw SNL over the weekend, grab your dose of a couple of beers and let's get started. Because today's first guest is my sister, Katie. She's gone through a lot over the last few years in terms of relationships, in terms of graduating college, went through a pandemic, as we all did, and even experienced traveling halfway across the world and living in Thailand for a whole year. We're unpacking a lot of that. And then to follow up, she moves home, lives with her brother and sister-in-law. A lot of stuff, so I hope you enjoy. One of the things that I'm kind of interested in unpacking is when we time travel back to the spring of 2023, you're graduating from App State. You did your victory lap, 5.5 years. Proud of you.
Whoa, 5 and 2 degrees after going through a pandemic. Thank you very much.
You're right. Yes, that's true. But then again, how many college classes did you take in high school, by the way? How many? I'm teasing you. I'm teasing. All right. So all right. So you graduated college. You left. You made the decision to leave a long-term relationship that started when you kind of really first got to college, and then when you left, you decided, hey, this is not right for me, and you're also going to be moving to Bangkok, Thailand. What in the world? So fill us in, Katie, if you don't mind, in terms of, all right, so you graduate college. What degrees did you graduate with?
I graduated with an English degree with a concentrated concentration in creative writing and then a public relations degree.
And then you go to Bangkok, Thailand for a year. I know, so for some of those that may not understand or realize kind of where that comes from, our parents lived in Thailand for 5 years, now back in the United States, but it was really neat, seeing our mom have the a job of her lifetime working as an international school teacher. And what I really thought was neat during that time with her journey was how she's never been more appreciated. She's never been thanked more, paid better. I mean, just the things that happen in countries outside of the United States and how we value teachers is unbelievable. But anyways, I know she had an opportunity for you to kind of step into this marketing internship, and would love for you to dive into a little bit more about what this role was and the decisions you had to make. And then if you don't mind too, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you've had to make a lot of really hard decisions during that time between graduating and 2 months later moving to Bangkok. So
Basically, yeah, Thailand was never really the plan. I actually, going back to my first semester, my fall semester of my final year, I was taking an international PR class, and we had to network to find somebody who's working in international or global communications and do a 30-minute interview with them. And so I was just actually telling mom about the project, and she was like, like we have a really cool marketing team here. Let me get you in touch with the marketing team at the school. And she did, and the interview went really great. I had no expectations. And then we just ended up really getting along, and they asked if I'd want to apply for a year-long contract there. And then I did, and I got it. And before they posted the job, they only interviewed me. I did have a few rounds of interviews. I did have to get recommendations and go through the proper process. But yeah, and so that was kind of my final year in school, something I knew I was going to be doing and I was going to be working towards. And of course, being in a long-term relationship at that time, when you are living with that person and that
Mhm.
person just doesn't align with the things that you want to do, it definitely caused a big rift. But we can unpack that a bit more later on. But yeah, I kind of knew, and it was just something to work towards and dream about. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
was always so excited. I was never really scared up until right before I left, I think.
Yeah.
But having that in the back of my mind, knowing that was going to happen, I think really drove me in a lot of areas of my life during 2023 because I knew everything was about to change completely. Just like right now, my life did a 180 in 2023, it did the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where you look at your life and you're not happy with how it is. And I would think a lot to myself that this is not where I thought I would be, and thinking younger me would be disappointed to know I've given up on the things she always dreamed of doing. And then when I secured that position, it just felt like I'd snapped out of that, and
Yeah.
I
Hell yeah.
I knew that I was in control and I could do whatever I wanted. And then that following year, I just made decision after decision, and I found myself again. I stood up for myself. I said I would wake up every day and be like, this can't be my life. I don't like my life. And one
Yeah.
day I just woke up and said, this won't be my life. And I made sure that it wasn't. So,
That's awesome. And I mean, so like real quick though, I mean, I want to spend more time talking about your adventures in Thailand more than a crappy ex-boyfriend. But like, how do you get to that point? I mean, I know it's a lot of stuff that kind of happens over time. But I mean, you just wake up one day and you just realize, like, hey, this just isn't for me. But I mean, like, how long did it take to kind of get to that point when you first realized, like, this was a hard decision to make? And hey, that's all about life. Like, life is full about making decisions, and one way or another, you got to roll with it. But sometimes, like, the hardest decisions to make are the most important ones. And so I know leaving a relationship for a lot of people is tough, especially when you live with them. There's a cat. There's a lot there. But I
my
mean,
cat.
oh no, trust me, I get that. I know that. But like, it's one of those things though. Like, when'd you know? Like, and how long did it take to kind of pull the trigger? You think?
Oh, so this is really bad. I
It's
I
okay.
knew for well, I knew for a really long time.
Hmm.
Like a really long time, like a couple years. But mind you, COVID was going on, and I mean, that was the only person I hung out with. Like, I
Yeah.
went like a year where I wasn't seeing my friends, I wasn't seeing my family, I was spending holidays with his family, I was only hanging out with him. And I like think of that relationship in two parts.
Okay.
The beginning, I met him when I was 19, and it was just, we were just young and we didn't know what love was and how to be with someone. It was our first real relationship, and there was a lot of toxicity, a bit of cheating, and just like pretty bad things. And I stayed, and it was horrible, and I did not trust him for a long time. And we just probably should have broken up, right? But we didn't. And I chose to say, yeah, I never forgave him, and I never really was able to fully let go of the things that had happened, and in a way that was unfair to him. But anyways, that was kind of the first 2 years, was I'd say
Hmm.
like really toxic, no trust, like fighting literally all the time. And yeah, and then I don't know, something shifted and things did get better, and he was kinder to me, and I knew I could trust him and those things weren't going to happen again. But at that point it was too late.
Hmm.
I remember there was a day we had gotten in a fight, and he had like stormed out of my apartment. He had That was actually a day he like threw a pillow really, really hard at my cat and was
What the
yelling.
fuck?
And yeah, and he just like slammed the door and stormed out. And I remember just like sobbing on my bathroom floor and asking the universe to like help me stop loving him so it wouldn't hurt this bad and so I could leave.
Mhm.
I didn't leave till 2 years later. But that moment was so pivotal for me because it was like after that, it felt like every day a little less and less.
Okay.
And then it just got to a point where it was just habit. And before I knew it, we were signing a lease together. And I knew it was a terrible idea going in and that I didn't want to do it. And then it was just, we had, and it felt easy because I didn't have anyone else to live with. And
Mhm.
it just felt, and I was trying to convince myself, like, if we do this, it'll fix things. Like, I'll feel things for him again. Like, I'll want to be with him, because I didn't feel really romantic feelings for him at that point. I just felt like he was my friend, and he was comfortable and he
Yeah.
was family. And that was kind of it. And kind of funny omen, actually, the first night we moved into that apartment, we were making Alfredo for dinner with shrimp.
Mhm.
And I was making homemade Alfredo sauce, and he had not pulled the shrimp from the freezer like I'd asked him to earlier in the day. And he
Classic.
started, nah, and he started thawing the shrimp under warm water. And I'm in the kitchen and I'm like, hey, babe, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm thawing the shrimp. And he was so hangry and like we are both in bad moods. We just moved. This should be like a happy day, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm like, oh, you shouldn't do that. I've worked in restaurants for a long time. Okay. You don't thaw any meat in warm water, especially not shrimp. And of course, we get in a fight. And
Mhm.
he's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, nothing's gonna fucking happen, whatever. And I'm like, all right, I just let it go. Worst food poisoning of my life. I was sick for like a week and a half, and I swear my intestines were not the same for like 6 months. Like something was just off. Like something was
So
funny
yes, the
for a
universe, and
while.
I guess be
The
careful what you
universe
ask for.
answered. So yeah, there was that. And I mean, like all of this being said, we had some really good times. Like I don't
Yeah.
like he's not a bad person. We just were bad for each other.
Yeah.
We outgrew each other. We were kids when we met, and our life paths just didn't align. Me going to Thailand scared the absolute shit out of him. And then I don't know, like those thoughts about breaking up had been in my head for a long time. And I think when you're with somebody for like as long as we were together, 4.5 years, the breakup, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it doesn't come out of the blue. You're having those conversations before it ever happens. And so that's what was happening is I was bringing it up to him and we were talking about it, and it was always very much like, I don't want to break up, so if we do, it's like your choice.
Yes.
And it's really hard to be put into a position when somebody you care about so much, like we grew together. I'd known him for, at that point, I had known him for what, like a quarter, a fifth of my life. Like he was a big part of my life for so long, and I care. And then when somebody's telling you like they don't want to leave, it's just like, what do you do?
Mhm.
And the big moment was when one of my regulars at work, there's this older couple, super sweet, and they knew, a lot about my life. They had asked me if I was still with the boy I was dating,
Mhm.
and I said yes. And they were like, "Oh, is he gonna propose when you graduate?" And without skipping a beat, I said, "Oh my God, I hope not." And like, no shade to him, but it was just like that was just like my visceral reaction. And they were so stunned. They were just like, "What?" And so I was like, "Oh no, like I just have like, a lot to figure it out, and I don't want to get engaged until I can like afford a wedding and whatever." And they were just like, "Okay." And there was I mean, I don't want to like shit on this guy,
I
like he's not a
mean,
bad
but you're
person,
halfway there, so might as well.
but well, I guess he did make me shit a lot after that shrimp scenario, but
Mm, mm,
anyways.
mm.
So yeah, there was just like a lot of nights that I would sit after work and we'd have what we called our shifties, working in a restaurant, oftentimes you get like a free beer after work or something. And I would normally never stay. People would invite me to go out and I would never go out. I would just go home. I mean, I didn't see you for a long time. I didn't see
Yeah, it was
anybody. He wanted
tough.
to leave.
Yeah.
He wanted to leave your fucking wedding early and then got mad that I didn't want to. Like, bringing the PS5 to the hotel room when I was going to show him my hometown and he was going to come to your barbecue, and then he's just sitting in there saying he has a headache and then wants me to go pick him up medicine and leave your pre-honeymoon post-wedding cookout early for him. Like, anyways, and then he just stared at the waitress's tits when we finally did decide on a place for dinner.
Red
um
flags.
yeah, but apparently he told everyone I'm crazy, so I guess you know
Yeah.
what?
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
it's just a
All women are
product of,
crazy. Men know everything. Men are,
yeah,
just kidding. As we can tell, men ain't shit.
yeah.
Well,
So,
some
well,
are,
I
some
guess,
are.
well, he did call mom a piece of shit one time, so there was that.
Yeah.
I
He
feel
ain't
like
shit.
I'm the bad person for staying after everything, but it happens, and I try to be gracious with myself over that. But yeah, there's a lot of nights like after work basically where I started to open up to people and I started to tell them what was happening and they knew something was off, I guess, for a while. And these were like my coworkers. I'd worked with them for years at this restaurant. I loved that job and I loved those people and
Mhm.
it just took one person, me confiding in and him being like, this isn't right. And then slowly everyone was like, they kind of all were having like a finally moment with me, where they kind of knew, but I was finally saying it. And it was really hard. And I remember sitting there one day, literally crying because these people were some of my best friends. And
Mhm.
just saying, like, I just feel like it's so hard to love me. And if I leave him, nobody else will ever put up with me and nobody will ever love me. And I thought genuinely that if I left him, I was sentencing myself to a life alone, which at the time was the scariest thing in the world. And since then, I've learned obviously that one, I'm not sentencing myself to a life alone, but
Mhm.
also two, a life alone would still be a beautiful thing. And like that transition of myself has just been one of my favorite developments over the last, honestly, like 6 months, is like realizing that I do love my own company and I love myself. And like, wow, having a life partner would be wonderful, beautiful, yes.
Mhm.
A life to myself would also be wonderful and beautiful. And I will always find connection and fulfillment in the ways that I need. And, anyways, yeah, there's a lot of people telling me, like, giving me game plans of how to leave, if I could come stay with them
Mhm.
and stuff since we lived together. And it was just like a whole thing. And basically, the breakup took like a month or two. Um,
Yeah.
it was like a fucking slow, painful band-aid ripping off.
Well, I mean, if
I
the
ended
realization
things.
happens 2 years into a 4-year relationship, and then it takes 2 years to actually get to the breakup, I guess odds are it's going to take a lot longer to actually be
Yeah,
out. But hey, you made it out, and then you moved halfway across the world.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's one way to end a relationship.
So, yeah, well, the thing is, he would say to me, he was like, I feel like you're going to break up with me when you leave for Thailand. And I was like, no. And then I not lying, I literally woke up one day because we were still living together. I had like kind of broken up with him. Like we were it was like a weird in between situation. We were in like fucking purgatory. And it was really bad. And he just like what he already had his place lined up for the next year. He could move in whenever and he wouldn't. And mom and dad were coming to town to visit me. They were visiting home from Thailand for the summer. And I like told mom what was happening. And I was like, I just don't know what to do. And like, I had woken up that day and I had been thinking about fully ending it, when I left. And then I was like, fuck that. I was like, I have 2 months left here
Mhm.
before I leave for a year. And I just don't want this to be my life. Like choosing somebody else over
Mhm.
myself, a person I have chosen over myself over and over and over and over again for 4.5 years. Over and over again. All I did was put that man first. And yeah, I just woke up and I literally said to my friend, I said, this is not my life. This is not it. I'm not waiting until I leave. And then mom and dad came, we're like, yeah, we'll help you move all your big furniture. And he was like, oh, thanks. And then did. And then he moved out. And I mean, there was still a few letters left under my bed and things said and accusations made towards me, but ultimately it was over. Um, he did give me 2 weeks to find somebody to take care of my cat for a year, so that was pretty shitty of him. Whew,
But hey, look, all right. So you broke up with the guy. He's out of your life. So thankful for that for many reasons. But hey, well, look, I think people listening probably is like, yeah, Katie, I'm glad that you're out of that relationship too. But all right. But the cool thing is, all right. So I mean, I get a lot of that, right? I mean, you don't have a place to stay because again, our parents are in Thailand, and it's hard when you don't really have that home to go back to during holidays or just anytime you need a place to go visit. Like you were in a situation that you felt stuck, and I think that's fairly relatable for a lot of people because they feel that way too. And so I think the the lesson I've gotten from just your life experience is shit's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, we control our destiny. And how powerful is that, right? Like each of us have the power of free will. And it's so much easier said than done, but I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that you had so many people in your life that were there to support you. Not only during the relationship when shit was hitting the fan, but then afterwards too, when it was just like, hell yeah, you fucking did this shit. You got out of this. This is you. This is you, your new chapter. You're owning your own life. And I'm so blessed to hear kind of where you're at. And so you moved to Thailand, across the world. You're meeting so many new friends, so many new people. I loved listening to every story you telling me about this person from Germany, this person from Canada, this person from the United States. Like, I loved hearing every story about just the many, many different people you were able to meet and interact with, and so many lessons that you learned from just this new perspective of living in another country, one where English is not the popular language, one where, I mean, golly, at least she had parents over there, which I think is a unique situation. But Katie, I mean, talk us through a little bit about the job that you were doing, because I know there were some situations there that were good, there were some situations that were bad, and I think all of us can relate to working a job where you're micromanaged, you don't align with your boss, you're feeling like they're out to get you, but you overcome that and you prosper. So walk us through, if you don't mind, kind of the job that you were doing, and let's dive into Katie's chapter in Thailand.
Yeah, so it was an entry level position. So I was basically kind of doing everything in the office. I walked in to a very understaffed office because the turnover rate was quite high for reasons I won't get too much into. So my first week, the event planner quits,
Oh,
and
fun.
I've never planned an event in my life, let alone for a crazy. Let me just set the stage of this international school. I won't name it, but it is one of the most infamous international schools in all of Southeast Asia. It is an extension of a very well-known grade nine school in the UK, and it is owned by I think the 27th richest man in Thailand, and it is like it is elite, like wait list out the door for years. Like you have people with infants, people like family planning that are applying for this school. I mean, it's absolutely a phenomenal institution, and it was so cool. But anyways, basically, my first week, I was tasked with escorting a K-pop band around because
Okay.
one of the members of the band was an alumni of this school. And so my first week, I'm just getting them on all their marks and just sitting, like, just making sure everything's good for them, kind of just being like admin, like showing them around the school. Also, my like third day, I met the owner of the school
The
and
27th
gave,
richest man in Thailand.
yes,
Yeah.
and gave him a tour. And it was so funny because we were I guess like when somebody's like a billionaire, it's just like I don't know, the level of disconnection is crazy. Like he was
I
asking
can
me
only imagine.
questions and I would answer him and he wouldn't even look me in the eye, he didn't ask my name, nothing. And I remember he like asked me a question and I answered it and he just didn't continue the conversation. It was just like he just wanted to know. And so he asked the question, got the answer, and felt no need to just like talk. So
Thank you for
whatever.
answering my question.
Yeah, it was quite silly. But yeah, like the Royal Air Force Band in the UK came and I helped plan like
Yeah.
that event. It just crazy stuff. So I was really kind of doing everything. I was writing press releases, working with our PR officer. She would send them to English news outlets. So I was published in a lot of big magazines in Thailand. Bangkok Post, the British Chamber in Thailand, like all of these things. I actually copywrote a two-page spread for the Bangkok Intereducational magazine. So that was really cool. Yeah, so I was doing a lot of that, a lot of social media, some photography. I was overseeing the digital team and like keeping them on time with like all the tasks. Every single thing that came out of that office in English, I was the last eyes on. I even was helping write speeches with the headmaster. I edited
Yeah.
all of his speeches for him. when I left. He gave like a goodbye speech for all the staff that were, leaving after their contracts ended. And he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do without you proofreading all my work. So it was really, really
That's
cool.
awesome.
And I could just go on about all the things that we did there. Um, but yeah, it was incredible leaving, for lunch and going and getting street food.
Mhm.
I mean, attending
What's your
like
favorite street
some,
food to get? What was your go-to?
oh, at work, we had different vendors, obviously, and then like at
Okay.
home. So at work, there was this lady who would sell these like different fried foods, and there's these fried like corn fritters, and they were so good. It was sweet corn, it was fried, and it came with this like spicy Thai chili sauce. And so I would just get those to snack on, and that was really great. There's a couple noodle places, just get stir fry and stuff. And then there was this coffee shop down the street I'd go to sometimes and do work at when I just needed a break from everything. And they had this really good passion fruit juice that I would get all the time, and French toast. They did have French toast, so I would get French toast sometimes for breakfast. And then on my street, we had some food vendors, like a lot of them, and I would always get, I know, but the pad thai, it's the
Mm.
best pad thai
Oh,
I've
I'm
ever
getting
had in my
hungry right
life.
now.
Like in my life, it was so good. And it wasn't sweet. It was super savory. And then they also had there was a woman who sold like just grilled chicken, sticky rice, and
Mhm.
somtam, which is like a spicy papaya salad. It's actually from Laos, but a lot of Thai food and like it's all very
Yeah.
shared. Um, but yeah, so that was
And
cool. But
I
could
think
always
one of the
go.
things that I loved about your time in Thailand too was just seeing all the poetry that you were able to read and like open mics. Like, how'd you
Oh
find this like open mic
yeah,
club? And I loved listening to all the poetry, especially, I mean, they did a really good job with their content. So it was just
yeah.
super easy to follow and listen to your stories. But I mean,
Oh wait, did you
how'd
follow
you,
them?
well, no,
Or did you
but
see
I
like
watched your
me post
post.
it? Yeah.
Oh, look, I don't got
I
to
would
give
be
love to
collaborator,
everyone, but I
so
will,
yeah.
oh, for sure. But like, how'd you find that group?
Oh, so this is actually a funny story. So I had just downloaded Hinge when I got there, actually, in like
Thailand has
early
Hinge?
September. Yes, actually, very much so.
Huh.
Tinder is a scary place over there, but Hinge is actually very much used. It's used like, well, it's used mainly by foreigners, is the thing. And I mean, obviously, Bangkok has a lot of like immigrants and I
Mhm.
mean, like people from all over the
Yeah.
world there. But
Isn't it like the most
anyways,
traveled to city in the world, right? Isn't that, am I making that
I
up?
know
Bangkok is the most
it's
traveled
up
through city.
there.
All right, you're going
Maybe.
to
I
talk
know
about
it's
the
up
story and I'm
there.
going to Google.
Yeah. But I like matched with this guy and like truth be told, I was not planning on meeting up with him, okay? I wasn't planning on meeting up with anybody. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just seeing like, what was out there, meeting people, whatever. And that was a funny thing. A lot of people did use Hinge over there just to like meet people and make friends, which was really cool. Anyways, and then I'm like, not, I'm about to like ghost this man. And he double texts me, I remember. And he tells me, hey, I'm going to like such and such bar like tomorrow night. There's an open mic event with like poetry and stuff. And I was like, no fucking way. I did not
Mhm.
think I was going to find any of that stuff in Thailand. Like I already had thought about that. And I was like, ah, probably won't happen.
And had you done that
Um,
before, kind of like those open mics?
yeah, yeah. I would perform a bit in Boone. I was invited by one of my writing professors to do a couple readings around town of my short stories. So I was pretty like familiar with
Mhm.
performance and stuff, which was quite cool. I loved it. I loved it so much. And then I just kind of stumbled into this. So me and my roommate Amber, who I became very close with while I was over there,
Mhm.
she's from the UK, we went and we it's so funny. We literally didn't even like sit with this guy because the event had started and we were literally talking and I was like, I just want to be here. And then I ended up like saying hey to him after the event ended, but I didn't perform that night. I just got
Uh-huh.
introduced to it and gotta follow the Instagram, keep up with the events, and they did an event once a week. So, and they were all different events at different locations around the city and they would do like the same four locations. And so one would just be like a full open mic night, one would be like a featured poet night, and then room for open mic. Like, and it was just a lot of different cool stuff, and I just loved it. And the guy who ran it, his name was Pablo, and he'd been living in Bangkok for a while, but he was actually from Orlando. And this group's called Lyrical Lunacy. I believe it started or he started it in Orlando and then took this idea to Thailand. But anyways, he's just such an incredible poet. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
And it was funny because every week there was like regulars that would come every week, and I still keep up with some of them on Instagram. And oh God, there's one guy from Chicago, and he is just such an incredible poet. And I was always just like dumbfounded by his work. And he thought I was a good poet, which was really cool to me because I was like, me? No, you. It's like Spider-Man, pointing at each other, that meme. But yeah, every week it was just different, like tourists who'd seen it online, and there was a whole Southeast Asia community of these poetry events and accounts, and they all would post each other. So when there was like people who were living and working in, say, like Hong Kong, they knew about lyrical lunacy in Bangkok, and then there's
That's
also one in
crazy.
Hong Kong, and it was just this like interconnected web. And I mean, a lot of times there'd be like a lot of people there too, and it was just such a fucking cool experience because there were some people you'd hear their work and you'd never see them again, ever.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
like there's some nights a lot of people would share about, their, I mean, like, their personal stuff, and then also like their experience in their countries, like there was a guy I met from Myanmar who was seeking asylum in Thailand, and he read a poem about like the genocide that his people are facing over there. And there was a lot of that as well, and learning people's perspectives and what's happening in parts of the world that is not really broadcasted widely on news media. And a lot of people don't know what's even happening, like silent genocides and wars and horrible things. And it was just so beautiful to have all of these people, so different. Never would we have ever met each other or learned each other's stories. And then here we are in this room, sharing the deepest parts of ourselves, making these beautiful, deep, and fleeting connections with one another, and then going our separate ways to our different corners of the universe.
Mm.
And I'll never forget like some of the people that I met. And actually one girl was from Greensboro, and that was
It's
weird.
crazy. Crazy. Small world. Small
She
world
actually
because
messaged me
Bangkok.
the other day.
Well, that. Oh, let's dive into that. But I'm also Bangkok was the world's most visited city in 2024 with 32.4 million international visitors, which is a 30% increase from pre-pandemic levels. So,
Wow.
so you met this girl from Greensboro. I mean, she still live here?
Oh no, she was living in China for a while. She actually escaped an abusive marriage, actually, and then moved to
Oh,
Bangkok and
men ain't shit.
has
Okay,
no
the theme
plans, no
continues.
plans of, I think, going back anytime soon. But she was lovely. She makes music, just like
Nice.
really powerhouse of a woman. And it was cool to meet her. And I wish I met her sooner so we could have done more collaborative work with each other. But
Well, what was
yeah.
it like then? So you go to another country, and so fortunate that you at least had a support system, somewhat of a support system. I mean, parents doesn't get much better than that, but I also know that you're there on your own journey, living your own life, and so you're there. You see them, you have dinner, you see mom at school and stuff like that. But I mean, how was that? Living in another country where your parents are, relatively speaking, several blocks away. I know it's a boat ride or a taxi cab or a tuk
It's like a
tuk or
30
whatever,
minute
however far it takes you to get over
taxi.
there. But like relatively speaking, Bangkok being such a huge city and your parents being in an apartment complex not too far from you, what was that like?
It was
Especially,
it was interesting. I mean, yeah, like we hadn't lived in the same country for what, 4 or 5 years, seeing them,
yeah,
especially during COVID. I mean, we went what, like 2 years straight where we didn't see them at all
you
because of
know, it's
travel restrictions.
it's crazy. We went in 2019, right before the world shut down. I still can't help but think about the cough that Monica and I had when we were coming back and getting
Hmm.
sick and just being like,
Yeah. The
is
announcement on the aircraft,
this?
do you remember that? Do you remember when they made, because we flew through Hong Kong, and do you remember the announcement that they made on the aircraft that if anyone had like XYZ symptoms to go to a different area of customs and get your temperature checked? That was
Probably not.
January.
I probably wasn't
Wait,
thinking
you
about
guys
that.
you guys flew back separately from us.
Oh,
That
yeah, we
happened
flew
on
back.
our flight.
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve when we flew back.
Yeah.
But even then, like it's still, it's like I mean, there's a lot of fume. I mean, there's a lot of smog in the air, and I think that's kind of what
Yeah.
prompted me to get a little bit of a cold and whatnot. But I can't help the little thought in the back of my mind. The world starts shutting down in March. Is like,
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
patient zero in the United
Yeah.
States right now?
No, seriously. I think it was like there a long time before we knew. But yeah, that was it was, yeah, circling back, like it was nice. Like, I don't know. because I had really spent a lot of time, especially in that last relationship, feeling very on my own. And I've always been very independent. I think the nature of my childhood kind of bred that. And I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm very thankful for it. But I didn't really go to my mom about stuff, like I didn't
Yeah.
really like have that. I didn't really
Why
talk
not?
to her about many deep things. Well, she was just so far away, and I don't want to
Yeah.
get too deep into like
Too deep on a
those
FaceTime
circumstances.
call. Hey, mom, here's my life
Yeah.
story. It's a 12-hour time difference, but
Yeah. And like, I don't know, her and I think went through a couple years where we weren't really close. And then I will say, them moving, we did FaceTime all the time and we talked all the
mhm,
time. We got a lot closer. But like when I would have rough days at work, knowing I could just go up and like get a hug from my mom, it was just such a beautiful thing that I didn't realize like how big of a hole there was in my heart until it was slowly getting filled. And we do dinners every Sunday. It was our designated day of the week.
love that.
So that was nice. But yeah, it was really cool having them close because it was also like they're still like it was so separated as well. Like sometimes it
Mhm,
just felt like I really was there on my own, of course. Because I mean they really weren't like the main part of my story there.
mhm.
Um, but it was cool, and I could go into all of the stories of the stuff I did there and the people I met.
Yeah.
I'll save you that,
No, we'll,
but
we'll we'll definitely talk about that, soon. But one of the things that you and I were able to kind of bond and kind of learn, and I hope I was able to provide just my perspective on some just work challenges that I had once faced that you were kind of facing, where it was like you're doing everything right, but you still feel like there's this kind of magnifying glass over you, and that everything you do is wrong. And there's just
yeah,
this at your everything is just met with an attitude. And I know that's one of the things that we talked about was just kind of like, hey, we're going through some stuff, and we're not always going to align with our bosses, our managers, things like that, because hey, we can't, I mean, you can't fix stupid. And not to say everyone, our bosses and managers are stupid, but like at some point, we had to learn how to communicate up and how to manage up and how to not only do that, but to say, hey, look, like their opinion and them just kind of yap, 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 because they think they're right and they're perfect and you're doing everything wrong, even though you're doing everything right. We had to realize that those opinions don't matter, because why should I trust someone else when I know what I'm capable of and I know what I'm doing and I know the great job I'm doing? I mean, you heard the headmaster talk about proofreading the speeches after you were leaving, and then here you are met with his boss who was just like up your butt every freaking time. Like, walk me through a little bit. You don't have to dive into too much of the details, but I mean, like, that was challenging. Like, what were some of the lessons you learned going through a challenging work experience that maybe someone else that's experienced in that today might be able to kind of maybe able to learn from your mistakes, or some of the stuff that you just had to figure out on your own?
yeah. I mean, I think like a big theme in my life I've noticed just over the years is like I've been faced with a lot of challenges that force me to stand up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable. And I know I have the capacity to take a lot. I know we've talked about this. I don't
Mm,
think everything really warrants a reaction. And it's not that I'm letting people walk all over me. It's more just that I don't feel the need because, like, I'm
mm,
just kind of like, roll off the shoulders. But it just got to a point where it couldn't roll off the shoulders,
yeah.
and I felt really alone. And I mean I was in this office. I was actually the only foreigner in the office. My entire office was all Thai people, and which was also really great for like a lot of reasons. Like, they were all incredible people and taught me so much, and I'm just so grateful for that. Like, moving to another country and then all your coworkers are just foreigners. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
so I'm grateful that I didn't have that experience. But anyways, yeah, it was quite difficult, and I felt like everybody was really close. And when, everyone else in that room is bilingual and you are monolingual and you only know one language and it is not their native language, you miss a lot. You miss a lot of context. And so whenever I started to be spoken to certain ways and treated certain ways, I really felt alone, so alone. And I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And there was one guy in my office who I was pretty close with, but like I said, I missed a lot of context. So when I'd see
Mhm.
him joking and laughing and eating lunch with them, I thought, they're all best friends. I can't tell anyone that I'm going home and crying every day over how I'm being treated. Like, I just felt like I couldn't say anything. And then also, it was a respect thing too, you know? I was the new person, and I also was just kind of blaming myself a little bit and just kind of being like, what am I doing wrong, you know? And then it got to a point where I just couldn't keep it in anymore. And there was a few people at the office that quit very shortly after because like five people quit in the span of like 2 months. But they kind of told me what they had been feeling, what they had been experiencing, and they filled me in on everything kind of
Mhm.
behind the language barrier that I didn't know about. And
Gotcha.
that moment, realizing I was not alone shifted my perspective, and that helped a lot, and it made it a lot easier for me to stand up for myself. And that I think was the moment that like helped, because working in restaurants for so long, and especially bartending, like I had to grow a backbone. Like leaving that relationship, I had to grow a backbone, and I did. And then I felt like I backtracked a little bit when I got there because I was letting somebody speak so poorly of me. I was letting my self image be impacted so significantly by how I was being treated. But it's also like when you go into a position and you are just like so fresh eyed,
Mhm.
so excited. I admired that person so much and the work that they had done in the past in their career. And I was so excited to learn from them. And very, very quickly, that was popped, that was
Mhm.
shattered. And it felt like it was completely my fault and that I was incompetent and that I was not good enough. And I'm very prone to being hard on myself. And it just fueled like the way I was being treated and spoken to fueled all of the worst thoughts that I had about myself that I had done a really good job at keeping at bay and not feeding into and focusing on the good and self love. And that just triggered. And then on top of being alone, being single, like being, in this whole new environment, I just felt like I don't know how to explain it. I felt like I didn't have the right to speak up for myself. Like I was not in the right to speak up for myself, and realizing I wasn't alone, like I said, shifted that. And we kind of took a lot of steps. I can't say that things ever really like they didn't necessarily get better, but they got manageable. And once I stopped showing that I cared, it did die down a little bit and I was given the space to breathe. And then I had my person, my social media manager, who we became like this. I still talk to him all the time.
Mhm.
He actually, when I left, he quit that job. Apparently, the other girl that came in and took my job after I left is like me, but even more vocal, standing up for herself. And I love to hear it. And we kind of look similar. And she sent me a LinkedIn friend request, and that made me very happy.
Nice.
Um,
But like
but
I get
yeah.
that. I get that too. I mean, because I mean, I can't help but think, some of the perspectives I was able to share from you, just from my own experience, was moving an hour and a half from Greenville to Raleigh and starting a job where on literally like day one, it was so weird, like walking into a new job. I'm like so excited about. Just moved. We're going to be living downtown Raleigh. I'm like hell yeah! Like I'm so pumped for this new future. Getting paid a lot more too, which is I mean that helps. But then day one walking in and like several people coming up to me, yeah, it's going to be really hard for you to be successful in this position. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what? 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 And then that was told to me so many times that I'm sitting here thinking, like, did I just make a mistake? But then it incorporated like so much micromanagement. I mean, I had like at one point four different people overseeing my day to day job and four different people having different ideas as to how I needed to do stuff. And so, mind you, day one, I'm told, even by the person that was on the hiring committee that hired me ultimately, said, hey, it's going to be hard for you to be successful in this job, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. It's going to be fine. And then you fast forward to four different people saying, no, John, well, you got to do this way, then that way. Why didn't you do this way? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm sitting here feeling the same way. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I just don't understand. And it's so frustrating because I'm thinking, okay, I had to take a step back and kind of like what you're talking about. I took a step back and I was like, okay, what can I control in this situation? Well, I can control my attitude. I can control my efforts and the work that I'm doing to show and prove damn sure that I'm doing everything that you guys are asking me to do. But then that never was good enough. And then it was, hey, John, you're no longer allowed to work from home. You got to be in the office every day. And, now you have to send us your activity report. And it's like, hey, I'm leading in all of these statistics, but the one that you're focused on is the one that is ultimately out of my control. And I think that's a big deal and a big thing for people to realize is that You can only control what you can control.
Mm,
And people saying that to one another is probably the most annoying freaking thing that someone can say is control what you can control. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Yes, if it were only that easy, but that's where kind of like you, I leaned into a lot of mentorship, a lot of friendship and realizing like, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm working really, really hard. And that's important to me. Because if I'm doing my best, whatever happens on the outside, let it be what it's gonna be. Like screw that. We don't care about that shit. We're so much better than that. And that's when I kind of like came to that realization too. I'm like, you know what? Light switched. I'm better than this. I'm gonna work my butt off, but these people aren't gonna get to me like they want to.
mhm,
And so, kind of over time, I was able to learn how, hey, if my boss is going to tell me something, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to respectfully, guys, respectfully, I'm going to communicate and say, hey, I don't really align with this, or hey, can we think about doing this differently, and just continue to share that feedback. And kind of the same thing, right? Not everything changed, but it got to a point where it was very manageable. And I think the biggest blessing out of all of that is I achieved my goals after year two. So again, I left that job better than I found it, changed the position because it was a guinea pig role, changed it kind of like you gave a lot of feedback. People learn, people are able to grow. And hey, if you can leave a place, any place better than you found it, that's the biggest joy that we can get,
mhm.
especially if you did everything that you could control and everything possible and be the best version of yourself. So it was really empowering to hear you from your story. This is how you dealt with it, and you learned how to brush it off. And I think now you and I are both in these different positions now where it's like, hey, I've been through this. I've learned how to deal with this. And now I'm able to take all of these lessons and just apply it to like future careers. And hey, now that we're able to understand a little bit more, we can take lessons from other things that we learn and just continue to apply it. And then we pay it forward. So when we have our friends are dealing with this stuff, it's like, hey, I don't know exactly what you're dealing with, but here's how I went through it. And here's maybe some things that you could take and learn. And again, at the end of the day, if you don't align with the values of the people you're working with, you're probably not the place you're supposed to be at. And that's okay. It's okay. And so, I loved how you had an unbelievable time in Thailand. And another thing I wanted to mention too, Katie, to you is, you were so inspirational to me when you were sharing all of these, these poetry readings that you were doing. I mean, I'm so thankful again that I was able to watch a lot of those videos because, I mean, you and I've talked about this a lot, right? Is that like, we like to put ourselves out there. We're storytellers. We like to communicate, but it's hard. It's hard to be uncomfortable. And so that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned in 2023 was you have to be uncomfortable to grow. And by
Mhm.
realizing that from a professional sense, and then just kind of leaning into some of the stuff that I was watching you and just some of the other people that I just love and idolize, it's just like, wait a second, I can take this not only in work, but I can take this in my personal life. And that's ultimately what prompted me to just start trying out this open mics and these comedian, try this comedy type of career that's not going to ever pan out. But shoot, man, if I could just, continue to do it, it's fun. Like it's
Yeah,
I
it's
love
just
it. It's a
fun.
hobby.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where I'm like stressing out about, oh my God, what if people are going to think about me? And then I was like, dude, who gives a shit? Like this is for me. This isn't for anyone
Yeah.
else. Like if you like it, that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what's best for me and what I like to do because life's too short not to. But now that we're kind of, so you had an unbelievable time in Thailand. We're gonna dive into so many more of those kind of trips, the places to go, things to see. But when you're coming back and preparing to return to the United States, I can only imagine how hard that is to. Okay, so we talked about you didn't have a place to stay back when you were living here in college, but now, okay, now you come back to the United States, July 2024, and you don't have a job. So sorry, Katie, but you don't have a place to live. You don't have.
Should
You
I tell my story
you're
instead of
yeah.
you? Thank you.
You're right. I apologize
Kidding.
for putting that. But but hey, but like let's call a spade a spade. I mean, you come back to the United States and it's just like, damn, like it's kind of starting from
Yeah, it
scratch all over again. What
fucking
was that like?
sucked. Well, I landed in the Charlotte Douglas Airport during the tech outage week to a
I
sea
forgot
of
about that.
angry Americans in a
Oh,
hot airport. I saw the Bojangles sign, a sea of angry people pushing each other out of the way, and I said, "Oh, I think I like said it out loud." I was like, "Oh my God, it's so good to be back."
USA, It was.
So yeah, I cried a lot before I had to come back, which was funny because like I did cry like a little bit before
Yeah.
leaving because mind you, before I left, I finally left that relationship and then I had the best summer, like focusing on me and being myself and it was amazing. Like, oh my God, imagine going to the bar and people high-fiving you because they found out that you broke up with your ex-boyfriend and they knew both of
That's
you. Like
crazy.
that's crazy. His old employees, it was crazy. Anyways, I won't get too much into that because if he
Yeah. So
ever
you.
by chance hears this, I don't want his feelings to get hurt, but yeah, when people high five you and congratulate you, I think you know something's going on. But anyways, so yeah, I had been applying for jobs since February of 2024 while I was over
Mhm.
there. But an issue is I was not verified on LinkedIn before I left. And so one layer was in Thailand, for whatever reason, you cannot verify yourself on LinkedIn. So that was one thing. Two, I had a Thai phone number. I had a +66 area, or like, what do you even
Yeah.
call it? Like
Yeah.
the
Area code.
country
You're
code.
right.
No, no, country
Oh wait. Oh wait.
code.
Because we're plus one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
How
we're
do we
plus
get? How do we
one.
get that? By the way, like, why
I don't,
does
I,
USA?
yeah,
Oh,
I don't,
we're
yeah,
number one, but not
nah,
number two.
yeah, probably. But yeah, there was that. So I put in my email and then thinking, if you don't get like if, I figured they weren't going to call an international number, right? So they'd always have my email. And then nobody called me. And I said, oh, maybe I'm just like not making it through the algorithm because my phone number, I'm not verified. People think like I'm a bot or whatever. And so I changed it to my US number with my email, hoping when they got that phone call, oh, this phone has been disconnected or like is not available, they would, send a follow-up email. Okay, like
Mhm.
I thought that most jobs just email you actually to set stuff up, but whatever. I guess people are still calling in this day and age, but I love it. Well, I love a phone call. I love a phone call, but not when it's for something like that. Like
Yeah.
unexpected calling you, trying to plan something. Like I don't love that. Like please put that in writing
Mhm.
in an email. People are busy. Like if we miss your call, we don't want that to just be like it. So
Right.
yeah, I did not. I applied for hundreds of jobs. I did not hear back from anything like at all. Like I got a couple rejection emails, but also I wasn't moving home till July.
Mhm.
So there was a few places that did get back to me, and I would do phone screening interviews and stuff, and they were looking for someone to hire a lot sooner than that.
Yeah.
So in April, I said, let me just put in my US SIM card and just see like what happens. And I paid the money for that. And then I had so many like missed calls and
No.
voicemails from the prior months, and they never emailed me. Never. Like they never followed up. They just called once, immediately. Like it tells you like this user's not available. Like it does I don't even think it rings. And then they just left me voicemails. So I was like, that's cool. Awesome. I love that for me. I called one company back because they had actually just called me a couple days prior.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did a phone screening interview with them and they basically were like, yeah, we're hiring immediately, but we normally have positions open up in July, so give us a call then. Because we'd love to like keep you, in the candidate pool. And so I give them a little call in July, I get in
Hey,
my
guess
my
what?
US SIM. I put in my US SIM card and I pay like $20 for a day of international data for that, just for it to say this phone is disconnected. And then I
Oh
look it
my
up,
gosh.
and the company went out of business. So
That
that
would have
was
been.
that. That was great.
You would have saved the
Yeah.
business too. Like if they, oh man, if you would have gotten that message, you would have been the saving grace. I just know it. I just know it.
Yeah, it was more of a sales job though, so it's okay. It's
Yeah.
for the best. But yeah,
Yeah.
the amount of people that like did get back to me when I moved back here and was applying for jobs, and it was all just those scam like door to door, like they're selling you like Verizon like home phones, and
If you
it's
guys
just
want to buy
like
these forks and knives, I have a great deal for you if you
no,
just sign right
literally.
now.
And you can just tell when you look at the
Oh yeah.
website and it's like
Mhm.
stock photos of an office and then it's all they require is like a high school education, which is fine, but just don't say this is like an entry level marketing job when you're door to door sales. Like and then they're like can make like crazy ones that are like you can make 60 to 80,000 a year. Meanwhile, your base salary is like $10 an hour, and they're like plus uncapped commission, and I'm just
Oh yeah.
yeah. So that'll get me approved for an apartment. Okay, yeah, that's great. That makes me feel so secure. Oh, so that was tough. But it's okay because it worked out because I was patient. All it took was just like a breakup, a robbery, like a really bad
Yeah, let's
depressive episode,
hey,
a
let's
job you
back up a
hated,
little
and
bit. Let's back
no
up.
therapist because you don't got health insurance.
Man, what a crazy 6 months that is, and it's one of those things like looking into that, right? So Monica and I move into a new townhouse downtown Raleigh, like 1st of July, and then well, 3 weeks later, what we did not expect to happen is little sister moving in with us, and it's
Okay,
one of
you
those
did
things.
expect. You
Oh
knew what
well,
was
okay.
happening.
Hey, let me see. You said let me set the scene first. Well, now let me set the scene. So,
Let
but
me did.
like but like for real though, I mean, it's one of those things. Okay, we knew that like, hey, if worst comes to worst, you have a place. Like that was a non-negotiable. Like you would always be taken care of, and that's always going to happen for you, Matt, anyone in our family. Like that's say less. But to that same point, it's also like in the back of our heads, it's like maybe she will find a job. Maybe she will find a place. Maybe all this stuff. And hey, things happen for a reason. That just wasn't meant to be. And so going into, I was like, okay, well, we'll see how long this lasts. I'm here for. You're going to help you out as much as possible. And what turned into what we thought might be a couple months, maybe a few weeks, turned into like almost 7 months.
No, yeah, I thought it was gonna be like a month,
And
literally.
I thought it might be like a year after like the first 5 months. I was like, okay,
Oh my
okay,
God, I
Katie's gonna be
know.
here
I
with
was scared of
the lease
that. I was
renewal,
really
but
scared of that.
best. I mean, seriously though, it's been probably the craziest 6 months of my life, but I wouldn't change any of this for the world. I mean, you come in here, you had to crash on the couch, and then thankfully we got the air mattress out and try to give you as comfortable of a space as possible while also supporting you while you apply for jobs. Bringing you to tag along with different networking events that we're going to, which hey turned into like a little marketing consulting
Yeah,
gig that you got
little
to
side
do, which
hustle.
hey, hell yeah. So I mean, and then you got to work a great bartending job. Oh, you got a good bartending job,
No,
but
a bartending
you
job.
worked as a bartender at a good establishment, and also many life lessons learned as we
Yeah,
continue to talk about. But I mean,
yeah. Lots of
the
that standing up for yourself.
exactly. So I know. So you mentioned a lot right there, but I mean, hey, so you moved in. Let's talk about the fun, right? So I mean, we went to see Mount Joy. We got to do like mini golf. We just had to have fun, and probably the best fun we had was when you were leaving, and we got to go out. And man, I'm
Yeah, because I
28.
finally got broken up with.
But sure, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, man, here we are. Like we never really went out and went to a bar and like kind of partied and stayed out later than I should have ever stayed
I
out.
know, I know.
But it was, hey, again, like all worth it. But some of the things that have happened included, okay, yep, you had another little boyfriend. We don't got to dive too much into that, but
Yeah.
you get done, right? And then you're still looking for jobs, and it felt like it was a dead end. And I know you and I kind of got in some frustration because I'm over here like, come in, do more, and I'm not realizing kind of like you are doing a lot. Well, also it's like, hey, you and I, we just need to learn to communicate a little bit better
Yeah.
because we both
We
were like,
communicate very differently. Yeah.
we do, and that's the biggest thing that I wanted to dive into. But we'll get to that in a second because I mean, you also were robbed at gunpoint right outside of our house. Like, what the fuck? I mean, if that's gonna wake anyone up or just change your life. I mean, I can't think of anything else that you know could take its place for better or for
Yeah.
worse. I mean, I'd say better because
Yeah.
we can
But
dive into some of that, but
yeah, it's like what's funny about everything that happened, like it just seems like so I was like obviously so depressed and there was like that
yeah,
month of October where it was hard to like do anything. Like I was like crying after work every day from that situation. I was crying every day because of the relationship I was in and like just yeah, all
it's a
of
lot.
that was happening and like it's funny though because once like that relationship ended, I mean, yeah, I was pretty sad for like a week and then, about the 2 week point, I just like pivoted and that's when I realized. I mean, I knew the minute I came downstairs, told y'all he broke up with me and you guys were like smiling. So, I mean, but it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. No, because like seriously, that was
I was just
like
not expecting that, but sorry, go
no,
ahead.
I know, but it was like the best thing that like could have happened to me, and not in a sense of like you have to go through something hard to grow, like yes, but also like sometimes you just need like an awakening to be like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like I was being so delusional, and like realizing that like that toxicity leaving my life changed shit. So like while yeah, it seemed like something really bad and really hard, it was like almost instantly a weight was lifted and was feeling so much better and it was so much easier for me to apply for jobs and like put myself out
Yeah.
there. And then one of the jobs I applied for during that time, like I literally got, actually I think that was the last job I applied for in this city. Um,
Mm,
Before that relationship ended, literally like 3 days before it ended, I had applied for
crazy.
it. Yeah, so the timing was weird on that. Also a full moon, so
I
full moon
mean,
energy is real. I got robbed
it's
on a full moon, so all I'm saying, lots of full moon activity happening to me, okay? And then it's like the same with like the robbery. Like obviously that was like horrible, and I'm still, I mean, that just happened like a month ago, and like
yeah.
I'm just still dealing with that. But it's like when I think about how I was when I got back, and like those few months where I was really, really in a very dark place, even now with all of like some of the worst, the one of my biggest fears came true, and like the worst thing that's probably ever happened to me in my life happens, and
Mhm.
I still feel like an infinitely better and more at peace version of myself than I did back in October. And
Yeah.
I feel like I know myself so much more than I did then. And I feel secure in myself. And it's very interesting because, like, yes, you are strengthened through hard times and stuff, but it was like almost like an antidote to what I was struggling with. Like, for such horrible things to happen to me, it just like, yeah, it just was like, it sounds so
It's crazy.
weird and
It's
it's
not. I
so
mean,
juxtaposed, but
yeah.
like, yeah, I just feel very happy with who I am. And that doesn't mean that all this stuff is just erased, but like,
You're hey,
I,
it's one day at a
yeah,
time. It's just that 1% better that and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I, my little sister coming in to my house after going to bed and it's 11:20 p.m. on a Monday night and just waking up and hearing like something I just you just know like I just got that the vibes and just could tell I was like man this something's weird and I thought I heard you crying I was like that's abnormal and so immediately just like got out and I mean you're just standing there like just sobbing on the phone. I just got robbed at gunpoint, and I mean, instantly, like the adrenaline has never shot through me more than it has in that moment where my shoes are automatically on. I mean, my glasses are on, and I just walked outside. I was like, where the fuck is this person or these people or whatever's going on? Whatever. I mean, I'm just so thankful. It's the craziest thing, man. It's people pointing a gun at you. Take your fake Prada purse, and that's God. It's so tragic. It was such a great green Prada purse, and
It was
all
so good. It was so
so
good. It was a
good,
souvenir
so
from Thailand,
good.
my knockoff Prada. I would get so many
God,
compliments on it.
but like, what's crazy in that whole entire situation is you had your cell phone and you had your house key, and you were calling
No.
911 right as those guys were running away, and you were able to get inside safely. And
I started
I'm so
walking
grateful for
after
that.
them actually,
That's
which is crazy of me, but I started
crazy.
walking after them like while I was on the phone. And then I said, "Oh, I should probably go inside."
So thankfully you did. Thank you for coming inside. Thank you for waking us up. But it's crazy. And you know what's also cool is we realized that we intercept two police districts. So thank you for teaching us that.
God, that was
Um,
crazy.
and well, look. I'm sorry. I got to bring this up again. But the whole kind of conversation around, man, look at these. Look how quick the police got here. Look at these drones. Look at how fast the canines are sniffing. It's kind of like,
Hmm.
we. It's funny that night the kind of change from maybe defund the police to fund the police was going. Oh, let's see, but I'm, I'm decent.
Yeah, I will say that night did shift my perspective slightly, but I also recognize why. I
It's
don't know. I
look,
don't
we
want to
get
get
it,
into
we
this.
get
We're
it,
not
we
going
get
to
it, we
agree,
get it.
but yeah.
It's.
But
I
no,
think.
I mean that everything else aside, I feel I like recognize how privileged I am to have had that response. That would not
Yeah.
have happened for everybody. And I mean, they were there in 3 minutes. And on top of everything, like it's just like so many mixed emotions about that situation as well. And like the the weird disappointment, but also relief that they weren't
Yeah.
found that night, knowing that there's two, like, probably 17-year-old boys out there that they know are armed with a real weapon. Like, it was not a fake gun, it was real. And it just knowing that there was people out there with assault rifles going after two armed teenagers, and we know
Yeah.
there's a very strong likelihood of what the end of that situation would have been. And I got new keys. It was a lot of money and a lot of hassle, but I got new keys. I
Yeah.
They got what, $4 and a sparkly lighter from
Man, you
me
can't
and
even
a
buy a
fake
cookout
green
tray with that
Prada.
anymore.
No,
God
I know.
bless.
And like no, not even a milkshake after tax.
Man, that's so
And
sad.
but like it's also like I'm just glad that like nobody ended up dead that night. Like not me, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
Very grateful to be here. 'Cause you never know what could have happened. Like his finger was on the trigger, and but also I'm glad that there's not somebody's child dead. Like they made a terrible, terrible, horrible decision, and I really, really hope that like they get repercussions so they stop and turn their lives around before they go and fucking kill somebody. And it doesn't excuse what happened, but like that being said, I'm just glad that there wasn't the
Yeah.
face of like a dead teenage
That's
boy
crazy.
on the news that
You said
night.
that to us that night too, which, I'm sitting there like, I mean, completely shaken up. I mean, you're my priority. You're the only thing I'm thinking about. And here you are thinking about these people that robbed you. And it was hard for me to understand for a little bit because I'm just kind of thinking, I'm like, no, like, screw that. Like, fuck no. If someone's going to point a gun at you, I mean, but then I, I take a step back and I'm like, yeah, I mean, people make mistakes. And it's not to justify mistakes that people make, but it's if there can be any lesson that's learned. I know you gained a new perspective, we all did, and so there's that clarity on that one side of it. But hey, maybe for the other people, they were impacted and realized like, damn, I really fucked up making this stupid ass decision. What, for $4 and a green purse
Yeah.
that I'm never going to use? Like, I mean, I get it, and that's where you kind of have helped, enlighten me to some degree, and just kind of take a step back a lot of times and not rush to judgment. Just kind of think about multiple different angles of what could be happening. Why did this happen? Why you? I mean, why you? Because you can take it. I know that. I know that for damn sure. That, I mean, you take a lot, and God bless, you just come out so much stronger on the other side. Even though it's hard, even though every day isn't as easy as it could be. But then again, life's not easy. Life's hard, and I think that's the biggest thing that we all realize is that like shit happens, and what we didn't expect was a pandemic. Obviously, what we didn't expect was a little sister to be living with us. But more so than anything, the thing that scared me the most is realizing that my little sister was put in an unsafe situation out of our control. And I'm just thinking, just reflecting, what could I have done? What could I have done? How could I have done better? Like, could we have done anything? No, you just can't. You just got to take life as it comes a lot of times and just learn from it and move forward, but continue to just have fun and live
Yeah.
life because we can't be scared, right? Because that fear, that's what they want. That's when they win, and we don't need that.
Yeah.
And I'm so
No, I
proud. I'm so thankful
yeah.
for you, your health. I know that this is still a long journey that you're going down in terms of recovery because I can't imagine how you're feeling, but it's I'm just so blessed and thankful for you. I guess you crashing on the air mattress in our upstairs bedroom
It's a
is the
really
biggest blessing.
comfortable air mattress,
It is,
honestly.
yeah.
I
I
vouch when like my friends come, I'm like, yeah, I've been borrowing the air mattress. It's here. Like I promise it's so comfortable. And Ashley was like, I might just like sleep on the couch. And I was like, I slept on this air mattress for 6 months. I promise it is comfortable. It's a bougie air mattress, you guys. Like, let me just set the stage. It is queen size. It's bigger than the bed that I'm using now. I got a full size mattress here, okay? It's like one of those thick ones with the padding, like self-inflating. It was a good air
yeah.
mattress. It did take up the entire room, and I did feel quite claustrophobic, but I don't know. Yeah, I like to your point though, it like I feel like I didn't realize like how I think honestly like little we knew each other
Yeah, I agree.
until we lived together. Like, and I just, it's like, I don't know, I just feel like we didn't really know each other. And I mean, I had been pretty, after, moving out of the house, like to go to college. I mean, there's like a lot of reasons that I kind of took a step back, like,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff I needed to heal from. And then just kind of got caught up in a situation where then I was being a bit more kept from my family
Hmm.
and discouraged from building relationships. And that was a bit unfortunate. Like it was never like an overt control of don't do this, don't do that, but it was a questioning, like why? Like why do you want to do that? Like a discouragement, like this seed of negative doubt planted in your head, like and that's just kind of crazy to me that I was ever like, yeah, I don't know. But it's just, yeah, it was just, I really like, I feel like, and I know I've told you this, but like, it felt like, wow, like being there, not getting a job, hitting dead end after dead end. Like, obviously, that's not what I wanted. Like, I had this for 6 months, this sense of urgency at all times inside of me, feeling like I'm overstaying my welcome, I'm being a burden. Like,
Hmm.
and then, especially when I was in a dark place and I wasn't able to help out around the house as much, like I was just up all night, like fighting with my boyfriend and crying over things. And I was like not eating, I wasn't sleeping, like I was just really not nourishing myself. I wasn't loving myself. I was so focused on like bending over backwards for other people and I was abandoning myself and I was abandoning the present. I wasn't nourishing my environment. I wasn't stoking our relationship. I just wanted to disappear, honestly. Like I just wanted to disappear and be as little as possible. And I don't know, like I think it just was a really hard time and obviously, but then it's like once that breakup happened and that stress was like gone, like you notice the immediate
Yeah.
shift. And for this to be the last job I applied to before the breakup, right after it happened, I'm pretty sure it was like the next day they emailed
It was
me
that week. It was
and
definitely
were
that week. Yeah.
no, it was that week because it was the next week that I interviewed because I think it happened on like end of November and then my first interview was like December 11th or 12th and like it was pretty immediate. And honestly for me to go have a killer interview like a week after getting broken up with and coming out of like the worst depression of my life, that was pretty badass of me. And then also timing wise too, dude, like the day of my second interview was the day that I got robbed.
It's crazy. That's the craziest thing. It's one of those
Like,
things too. It's like, hey, because I remember you talking to me. You're like, because we're gonna dive into this like job, this new chapter. But it's just like these things happen. But it's like shit happens, and then there's this weird positive angle, and it's like more shit happens, and it's just like this constant theme of like the sign that just continues to like point at you. And I remember you talking to me like, I don't know if I want to go. I don't know if I want to move. I love it here. But then I think what we realize is how uncomfortable you become through some of this hardship. It's like, you know what, here's the opportunity. I'm going to take it. And so now you're in this unbelievable situation. I've loved hearing how much you love your job, your coworkers. I really enjoyed visiting your new apartment, your new city. What you doing? Where you at?
no, I feel like I'm in a really like good place. And I don't know, I got a TV stand now, drove 40 minutes after work today, picked it up in Matthews. But yeah, it just felt like everything was so like divine. And I remember there was that snow day in Raleigh, like they had offered me the job that day. And um yeah, and I just was fully prepared. I told you, I was like, I don't want to move to Charlotte anymore. Like, the person that I was like trying to go there for, obviously we're not together anymore. I loved Raleigh. I had all of my friends there. Like, oh my God, like the way my friends and my family showed up for me when all that stuff happened, like I've never felt like a more fulfilling love. And I kind of also learned through that loss of like romantic love and 5.5 years of like back to back relationships, like two big relationships and realizing like, oh my God, like the love that in my life right now is so much more fulfilling than anything I've ever experienced, like romantically, like ever, because people love me for me. There's no expectation of who I should be. Like people, at least friend wise, they're choosing to be in my life. They see me, they know me, and they choose me. They don't feel really a sense of obligation. Like it's just more, I don't know. And I just think that's like even more beautiful than
Yeah.
anything else. Cause like, what are they getting out of it? Like they're getting my presence out of it. Like that is the reward, that is the incentive. And to be loved and seen like that and not put into a box and not feeling like you have to meet somebody's expectations for them to treat you the way they did in the beginning. And, it's just really, yeah, but it just, I remember being so not wanting to move here, I love Raleigh. I still love Raleigh, City of Oaks,
Hell yeah.
but it's
But now you're in the
just,
Queen City.
yeah, very feminine and it's wonderful and there's so much opportunity here. And I don't know, I just felt like I knew how, like, all of this stuff had just happened to me, and
Mhm.
my best friends and my family, and I say best friends because, like, I consider you and Monica, like, best friends as well, like, just like all my family, my people, like, my tribe. And I was so comfortable and I was so happy, and I wasn't ready to leave that because the last, like, I mean, actually, my entire life has just been uncomfortable and full of so much change and instability. And that was the first time in my life that I didn't feel really stable up here. All this stuff just fucking happened to me. But like, I felt like I had roots for the first time ever. I had never felt that feeling before, not even growing up, like nothing. I had never felt those roots before. And I felt them and I loved it and I didn't want to leave it. And then when they offered me the job, it's so much different in the moment. And I knew what my answer was going to be the minute he called. The minute I saw the phone ring, I knew he was calling me to offer me the job. And I knew what my answer was going to be and felt a little bit guilty because I felt like I was like abandoning the things that I told all my
Yeah.
family and friends, getting them excited about me staying. But I just like knew. And like you said, like this has like been my phrase. I actually said this in my interview that growth doesn't come from like comfort, Like you have to be uncomfortable to grow. And that's when the most beautiful changes happen. And I literally was saying that in my interview with them, And it just, yeah, like that has just been such a theme in my life. And like learning to love the discomfort, like genuinely, it's so
Yeah.
fucking weird. But like, I remember telling you this, like, I was like, I'm so grateful that these things happen to me because I was like, as fucked up as it is, like, what a beautiful thing to have gone through, to have been gifted this terrible, horrible thing that most people don't go through. I mean, most people go through breakups, but like a violent acts like that, most people don't
Most people don't
go
get
through
armed
that, you know?
robbery.
And like, it just, for me to have that and to just strengthen who I am from it and love myself even more from it. And obviously, there's other things I got to deal with, right? Like, I'm not sitting here acting like it's all sunshine and rainbows, like, it's not. But it's just still, I feel incredibly, infinitely lucky to be able to just like so quickly to hold on to who I am and kind of double down on my values. I was scared for
Yeah.
like a couple weeks that I was going to change, that I was going to see the world differently, that I was going to be pessimistic, that like the light inside me was going to dim and I was going to change. And a lot of me has been, I think, permanently altered. Of course, I think a lot of things, there are very monumental things that happen to you that I do think permanently pivot you in some ways, but also that didn't happen in terms of me becoming more negative, more pessimistic. If anything, I feel like it made me more positive. And like even in that situation, having people do horrible things to me, it's like I'm so grateful to be the person that my instinct is to think of those people as well and to think about the bigger picture and not just sit there and be the victim. And even though
Yeah.
I very much was the victim, and that's also okay. But
It
like,
is
I don't know.
okay. And it's one of those things too where it's like I can't help but think, I mean, so you go into this unbelievable internship where you're working in an education basis, working
Oh, they
things you're
actually
doing.
told me not to call it an internship. So just for the record,
So
it's
no, you're
not on
not
my resume. Well, it's not
okay.
on my resume as an internship because my boss literally said don't call it an internship to
So you had
employers
an
because you
entry
were
level
not an
position.
intern. Yes, thank you.
So you started this entry level position in Bangkok, Thailand, working for a school, doing all this marketing,
For
content,
intern
copy
pay.
for intern pay. But then what's really crazy is dive into a little bit of the job you're doing now because it seems like there's a lot of relatability and you're kind of your purpose, right? It's you love
Yeah.
this education. I know you're doing a little bit more about it's not my story to tell. So fill us in kind of the work that you're doing now, this new fun job that you have.
Yeah, so it's for a really big community college, second biggest community college in North Carolina, actually. And it is just like, I don't know, it's so different. And I thought coming back from Thailand, I wanted to go into agency work. And I don't know, I saw this job posting and like to a T, it was describing everything I did at my last job, even down to the campaigns that are being done. Like I was running and I, had ownership of like two exact same campaigns, and it just felt so like right, and so, but it's cool because that was a private school, very wealthy, very much we are the best of the best in showing that, whereas this job is, it's a community college and there's so much, like it's just so different. It's, you have people from all different age groups. You have dual enrolled high school students. You have seniors just wanting to enrich their lives and just take non-college level courses. You have first responders, public servants. You have people wanting to knock out their gen eds and go to four-year schools. Like there's just people of all different backgrounds with all different desires. Lots of first generation students, people changing their lives, like, and it is just like, I don't know, it's so different and it just feels more, I don't know, I feel closer to the community, whereas like at my last job, while it was incredible in its own ways, it was very arm's length and it was very precise in the image you put forward with their branding, whereas this is just real and it's people's stories. And I feel like, I was talking to one of my coworkers about this the other day though, and he was telling me like, in the scheme of things, like he feels like he's really contributing to something greater and something good. And he was like, because he used to do like some work for like churches and stuff like that. And he was saying, and he feels like, I don't know. It was just cool to hear him put that into words because I've been feeling the same. Like this school does so much for the community and it gives people the opportunity to uplift their lives and it's accessible as well. Like I work somewhere that was a very inaccessible place and this is so accessible and people like, I'm gonna get to write stories on inspirational people and how they have just changed their lives. And like, it is just so cool to just feel like you're contributing to a greater good. Not
That's
even
all
like
about
I'm
life.
really doing anything, but I am like, I am just like, just a part of the machine that's doing it. And that is really, really cool to be able to uplift people's voices. Like, I'm not the one doing these things, it's these people that are doing these things. And I am just a part of the team giving them a voice and giving them a platform and getting their story out there. Yeah, like what you're doing. And it's just such a cool thing. And yeah, my job's going to be pretty, like similar to my last one in terms of just variety. It's going to be a little bit more honed in than the last one because that was also just filling in vacant positions. So no, no planning orchestras for the Royal Air Force bands, unfortunately. But there's a poet coming to the school for like the arts program, and so I'm gonna get to like go uplift his voice and hopefully meet him. We'll see.
Hey, yeah.
And
Always be networking. There you go.
yeah, and it's just quite, I don't know, like it'll be really, I will be doing less PR stuff. Like I'll just be doing more like copy, creating social media content with the social media manager. She's incredible and it's so awesome to learn from her. She does more of the strategy focus. Actually getting a camera and getting to start doing photography again for the school. And it's just going to be, it's very, I'm on the creative team, but I'm also on like I'm kind of in between. So I work a lot with the creative team and then I also just work with like the CMPR team,
Hmm.
communications, marketing, and public relations. And so I don't
Best
know,
of
and
both
I feel
worlds.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel really valued, and I feel like my voice is going to be heard, and I feel like I'm going to, and already am learning a lot, and I'm getting to literally do the things that I am most passionate about, like writing, talking to people, interviewing people, telling their story. Those are all the things that I care about the most. I remember they asked me what the favorite part of my job was, and that's exactly what I said, and that is exactly what I am doing now.
Let's go.
And
Let's
so
go.
it's just, I don't know, it feels really good. And yeah, I'm not walking across the street to get street food, but I'm getting a lot of Panera grilled cheeses and tomato soups, and I can walk to Target and I can walk around campus. They're very big on work-life balance, and which is something I've never experienced at any job. And so it feels like a bit unreal. Like I feel like I'm like always asking like, can I do this? Can I do that? And they're like, yes, you can. And I'm like, really? Like I can go for a walk? Like, that's crazy. I can
Well,
actually get lunch. That's crazy.
well, you can eat. That's crazy. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm so pumped for you, and I'm really excited to see this next chapter in your life because I mean we talked about it, right. I mean, and all joking aside, I know it's easy for you and I to kind of laugh at some of the shit, but it's not easy. Like you did hit rock bottom to a degree, and I mean, but now you're getting now it's the next step, and it's 1% each day. And I mean, just seeing, I mean, you're so right. I mean, everything you said. I mean, I saw body language just shift during the breakup, and then I know the robbery kind of like shifted things in a different way, but then just, I mean, your comedic kind of spin on that too, and just kind of adapting and adjusting because it's so uncomfortable. But here you are, great job, new city, fucking crushing it. So proud of you, so proud to be your big brother, so proud to be your friend. I love you more than anything in this world. And we're gonna kind of finish up
Hi.
with a few rapid fire questions. So I want to see
Oh
a little
God.
bit more about what band or artist should people be listening to right now? Who's on your top of your playlist?
Oh, I would say probably Ivan Cornejo. He's a Mexican American like indie artist that me and one of my best friends are very into, and he's coming to Charlotte in April, and I think I'm gonna go see him by myself and have my first concert alone.
Nice, good stuff. I mean, hey, Mount Joy's who I've been listening to. I'm so grateful we were able to see them together. They're actually coming back to Cary in September, so it's a Tuesday night. You might not be able to make
Oh.
it, but we'll figure it out. What books you reading? Any good books you suggest?
Oh, actually, I started reading, actually, when you were here Monday,
Oh
A
yeah,
Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. It's just like a pretty big piece of feminist literature. And as I'm in my own little phase of just kind of doing my thing without men,
yes.
I'm just pretty focused on that. Also, I need to restart Autumn of the Patriarch by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I started that and then I got broken up with, and then I restarted it and then I got robbed. So
Maybe you
I
shouldn't start this
maybe
again. I
I
don't know.
should, maybe I shouldn't read it, but it is a bit contrasting because it's Autumn of the Patriarch. It's a very masculine novel. So you know what? Actually, yeah, maybe we'll table that for a bit. But I think I'm gonna join a book club here. So.
Okay. Book club, get some poetry. Now, you've also spent a lot of time as a bartender, so kind of two parts. One, what's your favorite drink to make? And then two, I know this answer, but what's your favorite drink to consume?
You know the answer. Oh,
Bzz.
my favorite drink to, I mean, in terms of classic cocktails, there was a few at like my old job, like original cocktails that were my favorite to make, like my old job, like my first
Yeah.
bartending job. But I would say honestly, I love making an espresso martini. I love it. Everybody hates on them, but as long as you got your pre-batch espresso, like you're fine.
That.
And it's just to get it so frothy and
Mhm.
beautiful is my favorite. Dry shake it first, wet shake it the second time. Get that little thick foam that lasts the entire duration of you drinking it. It's perfect. Also with tequila. I
And
know
that's
it
what,
sounds crazy. I know it sounds
oh, yeah.
crazy, but it's not. I was
It's the
very
best thing
hesitant
ever.
to try it, and it's so good. You don't even actually taste
So
it,
good.
really, because what is it? I'm pretty sure somebody told me, I did not fact check this, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But somebody told me that tequila and coffee have very similar, like, organic compound makeups, like chemicals, molecular level or whatever, which is why they work surprisingly very well together. Because you think of the two flavors and they seem very distinct and very different, but they mend in a way where you feel the like burn of the drink, but you
Oh,
don't
it's
taste the
so
tequila.
good. And I mean,
But
kind of coming from some similar regions, I got to shout out my friend Christina for telling me, she's like, John, you like coffee, you like tequila. Have you ever tried espresso martini with tequila? I'm like, no. And now it's like my go to.
wait,
And
I didn't put you onto that. Somebody else did.
somebody
Wow.
else did. Yeah. No, I know. Sorry, you didn't
Well,
influence me there, but you did influence me with your favorite drink, which is,
yes. A bee's knees. Ah, it's beautiful.
what is in it?
Gin, lemon,
Mm,
honey syrup.
mm.
Three ingredients.
Zzz.
Beautiful, 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 balanced, perfect, wonderful cocktail. I like mine shaken with sage actually and fine mesh strains. Love it herbaceous. I actually was using a honey syrup from a local coffee shop. It was a cardamom honey syrup that was very very wonderful. Met another bartender who did a thyme infused gin, and I think he did bar hell, and then he did a rosemary honey syrup in it, and that is on the list of things to do. It sounds pretty incredible, but I think I would do like, I really want to try a lavender infused gin or lavender honey syrup with it. But either way, the classic bee's knees is a gorgeous, perfect, beautiful cocktail. It was one of Sasha Petrosky's favorite cocktails. And so if you don't know, find out. It's so good. But find a bar that actually makes it good, okay? Don't go ordering this at a dive bar. Like go to like if you're at like a proper bar that has like a full proper cocktail menu and they have honey syrup, you see honey on the menu, they can make it.
That
So,
is, I'm so thankful for that. And kind of wrapping things up then, we've talked a lot about journeys and life is hard, but it's keeping a forward mindset. So when you think about, you have this new opportunity, you're 25 years old, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Like, where do you want to see yourself? The goals that you're continuing to push yourself towards, what comes to mind?
you know what's funny is like I feel like a few months ago, like I would have actually, I feel like my whole life I would have always had an answer to that question. And like right now, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I am so okay with that. I have things I want to do, like I want to, now that I'm at this college, I get to take free courses. And so I'm going to take Spanish courses, relearn Spanish. I would love to live in Madrid one day, work for international school there, hopefully doing marketing. I would also, I've been thinking about New York City as well. But also here for a bit, parking it,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't know. And so much my life has just done another 180 like again. And I don't know. I'm okay with not having that planned out right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Having a
if you do
list
a
of things
couple of
I
180s, are you not back to where you started 360? I'm teasing. Sorry. I'm not funny. I'm not a
honestly,
dad joke.
it's like
I'm
a
sorry.
line of me just flipping back and forth, just on the timeline of my 25 years of existence. Just like imagine like those paper people holding hands, except it's
Oh
like
my God.
one
I
face
forgot all
forward.
about that. Holy shit. Well, Katie, I'm so thankful that you came on, and you're right. Like one day, look, one day at a time, because as we just talked about, life changes and throws your
Yeah.
curveball, and it's at the end of the day, it's what you're gonna make of it.
Mhm.
Control what you can control, be the best version of yourself, treat people with kindness, pay it forward, and the world's your oyster. So, last question then: who's your favorite family member?
Monica.
She'll love that. Hey, no. Well, let me
That
ask
was
you
really
then.
actually the first thing that came to
Hey,
mind.
she,
No,
uh,
I love
sh
everybody. You know that.
I know. I sorry. I had to throw that in there. I know people that listen to this from our family will probably give me shit for asking that because I know you don't have a favorite kid, you don't have a favorite dog. Wink, wink. If only people could know that. Hey, well, I love you so much. Proud of you. Grateful for you to come on, and look forward to future conversations, especially when we can dive into, your hobbies of poetry. I know your interest in astrology, some of these Thailand stories, and shoot, you're living this new chapter, and I feel like I've already had so many stories to tell just from the people you're already meeting in the 2.5 weeks that you've been living in Charlotte. So more to come. Stay tuned. But at the end of the day, Katie, just grateful to be your big brother.
Grateful to be a little sister. Even
No,
if you didn't like me most of my life, but at least you like
that's
me
not
now.
true.
I'm
Look,
just kidding. I was just a little sister. I was annoying. I hid beer cans in your closet while you were at
and
college.
you were just so easy to annoy because I would just start tapping. You'd say, "Stop that," or I would just
I
simply
had
just.
sensory issues.
Or the best thing is I would just look at you. Stop looking at me. Stop looking. I'm like I'm
I
just I'm
forgot about that. Yo, that
not.
would like irk me. I was like, stop perceiving me. It would like literally like tick something in my brain. They should have diagnosed me with something much, much sooner, but it's
Well,
okay.
hey, better late than never. And on that note, hey, have a great night. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Big thanks to Katie for coming on our first show of Relatable Takes and sharing all the crazy things that she's gone through. relationship, moving, pandemic, armed robbery, new job, new chapter, living the best life that she possibly can. A lot of lessons to be learned, and I hope you all enjoyed. And get ready for next week's episode because the craziness of the Rouse house will continue, and we get to talk to our middle child, the middle brother, my younger brother, Matt Rouse, who he's gone through a lot over the last few years. Some of you may know, some you may not know, and at the end of the day, it's just a very unique story. But he's just one of those people you just got to sit back and listen because you won't believe it, but when you do, you'll be glad that you did. So thanks again. Take care. God bless. Pay it forward and just treat each other with kindness.